been a few moments where I wanted to go full Britney and just shave it, but
Full Britney, yeah. That's too good.
So, yeah. And then just caught up on a bunch of Vital just before, which is pretty sick. There's some juicy little bits in there, which I think have gone a little bit unnoticed.
Yeah. It was good. I enjoyed having a look through before.
Just on the pit bits, or?
Yeah. Was it number 2? Just some of the stuff on Sam's bike, which I've still left it up so we can talk about it later, but it was very interesting.
Sorry?
Samuel's.
Oh, yeah. Is this number 2, is it? Because I saw one this morning.
It might be. Let me have a look.
I can't remember seeing Sam's bike.
Yeah, pit bits 2. Yeah.
That Contra looks pretty sick, hey? Not gonna
lie. There's so much I want to love about it, but I don't. But yeah, I know what you mean. That paint's amazing. I don't know. I don't like that thin tube look.
Yeah.
It's purely aesthetics. It's not function. But
it's like 70% of the equation these days.
100%. I was listening to a skate podcast today, and they're talking about that proto Grail. And just talk about the old one, and like that thing could have ridden amazing. That thing could have been the fastest bike in the world, and I still would not run it because of that double handlebar. You know what I mean? Like it just looked stupid. So there is a point where I feel that form is massive over function, but
because everything rides so well now, like.
Samuel's is pit bits 1, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing crazy. It was just the wheels and then where his flip chip is.
Oh, actually, I did see the wheels, the D-Max wheels, eh?
Yeah, because they look similar to that. There was a wheel brand years ago called Demon or something, or Dabbler or something like that. And I was like, that's a really weird...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really similar font. So I saw the DE M, and my brain read Demon, and I was like, oh, that's really weird, like Nuke Roof do wheels. But yeah, D-Max. I feel like they're trying to bring that back for like 5 or 6 years now.
Is that on Sam Hill's bike?
Yeah.
No, they're like the new Descent wheels, aren't they?
Nah, they are D-Max. I'm staring at a Mavic hub, Mavic sticker, D-Max. I thought the same thing because they just brought out those new Nuki wheels.
So he's got different wheels than in the second one.
Oh, you got told off. And then his flip chip says it's in 29. But unless that just changes the progression or something, I'm not too sure.
Is he mullet or 27?
Well,
29.
The last time I saw him, he was mullet.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing, but I could be totally wrong, but I had a bit of a gawk this morning, and it's not very accurate just looking, but to me they both look like 29 wheels. Like the back doesn't look distinctly smaller.
No, I think I saw the check from Fort Bill and it was the same, and I was like, oh, those wheels look the same. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Just having a bit of a flick too because I'm interested. I love the seat. He's got the gripper tape on the seat. Yeah. What tyres are he on? Is he on Michelin's? Because I can't see a Michelin hot patch anywhere.
I don't know. I think he used to be on Michelin, and then the other team's on. Yeah, the main sponsor's Michelin, so I assume they're Michelin or Michelin.
So picture 27 of 48. That looks hell like a Conti tyre.
Yeah.
Are you on Pipit's 1 or 2?
1.
1.
Picture 27.
Yeah, I don't know. I've spoken to him before at Michelin's, and he rates them hard, but that was way before Conti.
He had a lot of the development in him, eh?
So that's Pipit's 2.
It is Pipit's 2?
Yeah. It does say D-Max. Yeah, because Pipit's 1's only got 42 slides.
Sorry, it is Pipit's 2, my bad.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Pipit's 2, yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely not Michelin's, hey?
They don't. I mean, I know Michelin have been working on a prototype tyre, so they could well be that. But I just don't. I don't know. Obviously, there's not a heap of pictures, but I don't see any hot patch. And that 27 looks very much like a Conti tyre. Could be way wrong.
I think you're correct. Well, in 30 or 48, it looks a lot like a DHF on the rear as well. So, who knows?
Interesting. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. It kind of just...
I'm very excited. I think that this year, could be totally wrong, but I think this year, in hindsight, could be one of like, I don't know, just a huge year for downhill. Like it could be one of those iconic years because there's so many people from Australia over there, which is good. But like Sam Hill's back. There's so many people healthy and fast. I just think it could be a bit of an iconic year.
Yeah. And I think also, like, I'm fingers crossed with this. Like, I think this ESO thing is going to be great. Like, I think this is the level of professionalism that I think a lot of people have wanted for quite some time. It seems to be run really well. The footage from the Enduro was fucking supreme. It could be that, like, milestone for downhill that we look back in a couple of years and, like, fuck, that season was sick, but damn, that springboarded us into, you know, more money in the sport. And I think it could be very good.
The dudes from Warner Brothers, Universal, whatever, Discovery, they were super committed in Derby, hey? Like
really? That's
they
awesome.
worked so hard. One of the ladies had like a blood nose and she had like a tissue just stuck up her nose and she was still filming. And then like they get to the bottom and they like run to the media tent and what's his name? Rick McLaughlin or whoever the host is like recording straight away. They were just working. It was pretty cool to watch.
I couldn't believe how quick that video came out. It was like within 24 hours of the race ending for the EDR with full commentary. And like, especially now, because I've been writing a few more scripts for work, like I never really used to think about stuff people were saying, you know what I mean? Like, and just the stuff he was saying, I was like, this has to be a script or he's just a ridiculously good orator. You know what I mean? Like it was just so well spoken and articulated so well. I was just like, this is ridiculously impressive. I don't know how he has the time to do that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's just sitting in the media center tapping out the script as the day goes on because he wasn't on track.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That makes sense, right? Like, yeah, I just think it's a different level of professionalism than what I think we've seen in the past. And I think that's what downhill needs really bad. I think everyone's kind of asked for it, but no one actually wanted to step up and do it.
And everyone was complaining about having to pay for it. And they clearly don't remember having to buy VHSs back in the day because that's the only way you could get stuff. Like,
I love paying for shit. Like, I hate this like free stuff all the time. Like, if you're paying out the nose for it, it's kind of different. But like, you are paying really in the long run to help riders earn more money and for there to be more of a sport realistically, because then all those riders can go back to their sponsors and be like, hey, I did X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I understand kids not buying it. Like, fuck, if you're a kid, you have cash, then that's fine. But like, if you're an adult, like, and you like stuff, you know, I mean, you probably don't have Foxtel anymore. Like, I don't know, cough up with a little bit of cash a month.
But it's like, if you get the yearly thing, it's $65 a year, so it's $1.25 a week.
Yeah, wow.
So it's like it's nothing.
Yeah. That being said, I still need to sign up for it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think as long as I don't disagree with any of that. I think athletes do have a valid point that hopefully that drips down to them, because effectively, if it is kind of like a pay-per-view, kind of like the UFC or whatever, then you know a lot of those athletes get a cut of that. So hopefully it does trickle down, and it's not just more professional, but it also sort of exposes the athletes to some more revenue as well.
Yeah, I listened to a couple of podcasts with athletes on that, and I wish it would get to a point that it's like Supercross. If you make the main, you get your TV money kind of thing. Really,
yeah.
I hope it does get to that. I think for now it'll just be a better package that people can, you know, talk to sponsors about. But yeah, I don't know. I think the future's pretty bright.
Well, it's pretty hard for them to work out payout percentages and stuff until they know what the numbers are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I think it's all going in the right direction. Yeah, as you said, Mick, I think it's going to be a fucking sick year.
Yeah, I reckon it could be one for the books, to be honest with you. So,
especially with you got Sam Hill coming back, Minar's like still on fire, and all those guys, and then you got
a lot of people are healthy, and it's I don't know.
Yeah.
I think too. Maybe last year, I don't know, but like this year's just it kindly feels like the kind of like the COVID thing's over and everyone's back to being able to travel, and I don't know. I just think everyone's kind of like a bull at a gate, which is good.
I reckon there's.
I think the teams.
No, you go. That's right. I'm looking up.
I think the teams are just stepped it up too. Like, I think Syndicate's going to be a massive force to be reckoned with this year. I think everyone is really, Specialized has all of the riders. Like, literally all their riders could be on the podium this weekend. Like, yeah, it's pretty gnarly, the talent pool. And yeah, I think exactly as you said, Mick, it's just because everyone's healthy, I suppose, and dare,
Yeah, people want to come out swinging. Like, I'm looking at the new pivot bike as well. Like, that
thing's sick.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
There's 40 elite women, pretty much.
Wow.
And I reckon half that field, good podium. So that's pretty rad.
Yeah, that's sick.
That's good.
And Rachel Atherton's back.
Yeah, that's rad. I saw that on Geordie's story today, actually.
And Tani. So I reckon Mick's got it. It's going to be a sick year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, look forward to watching along. It'll be good.
It's been 40 weeks since the last World Cup. That's another
stat. I heard that stat on what podcast I was into yesterday.
I heard it on Downtime.
Yeah, Downtime with the Irish guy or whatever talking about. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
40 weeks is a long time.
Almost as long as it's been for your haircut, I reckon.
Pretty close. Yeah. Well, like when Troy was talking about at Nationals being like, it's not the goal right now because the season's so far away, it just was hard to conceptualize that, because it's like normally everyone comes out swinging at Nationals, but we don't also normally start in June. So, yeah, that Monster Down rounds are a bit scary though. Like, having been there late in the season before, that's going to be terrible.
It'll be snowing.
Essentially. Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to be sick.
Yeah, it will be sick to watch. Yeah, that track is terrifying the way.
I'm kind of keen to keep going and keep that in if you guys are.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Just keep. I thought we were going anyway, so
there we go. Professionalism at its best. No, that's sick. Might as well keep going on that. Who's your predictions for the first one? Top 3 men and women. If you could pick anyone.
You want to go first, Lachy?
I don't know if they're predictions or the people that I want to go well.
One of
Sam Hill.
Yeah, like Sam, I definitely want Sam to go well. I think Sam is a bit of a dark horse in the sense that he could throw down and go really well. He's been building. But ideally, at the end of the day, if I just see a sick clip of him drifting through a corner, I'm also going to be pretty content.
Yeah, that's a win, mate.
Yeah, to be fair. I think I want Troy to go well. He's come into the season healthy. It looks like him and Aaron are a really good vibe. He's doing a lot more of that YouTube stuff, which I think is impressive because that's terrifying. It seems in a good way. It seems like they're trying new stuff, which I think is always good when both their minds are bubbling over. I think they come out with some pretty cool shit. So we might talk about that chaos thing later, but I think that's interesting that they're trying to adopt that. I don't really know who my third in men's would be, to be honest. And then in women's, I'd love to see Louise go well, just after spending the week with her in Cairns.
She's just up there as well. She's a great human.
And just a good human, so nice. So I'd love to see her get up there. But I think she can. Like, she's got the speed. I think for her, it's actually toning it down a little bit and kind of building up for the weekend. I'd like to see Valli go well as well because she's rad. I think she's awesome for the sport. And I would actually like to see Tani come back and build some confidence after some of the footage and stuff from the Lord's race. She had that little crash. She seemed a bit unsure, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping maybe she's built from that to like, cool, I crashed, I'm all good, I didn't get concussion again, and I can start to build, because that's terrifying, concussions. And yeah, I think that would be rad for her to come back. Yeah, that's kind of it. I'll maybe think of another third man later, but if Troy and Sam are 1-2, I'm pretty good. Everyone else can do whatever.
I think Jackson Goldstone will be hard to beat.
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah,
dude's just on fire.
Yeah,
Sam, for me, like from the sentimental value, I'd love to see him get up. The other one who I reckon is just, I don't know, like obviously he's been on tear for years and years and years, but on that new bike is Bernard. I think Bernard could get up.
Yeah.
I don't know, particularly like Lenzerheide, like being a little bit more bike parky at the top. Like I think he'd be really quick up there. And then for the girls, I second kind of what you were saying. Like I'd love to see Lou get up. Apart from that, I think Valli will be quick. I reckon Cammy Blanche will be quick.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm going to go different to all of you.
They're my top three.
I'm going to go completely different. I'm going to say Sam Hill's building for world champs.
Yeah, I agree and semi-no for that. So yeah.
Yeah. It's just been like watching him over the last 4 rounds in Australia. Every round he's a different rider, and it's not to do with mentality, sorry. It's more just physically building.
Yeah.
I reckon Ollie Zwar's going to come third. He's
going to smash it. That he could be on it. Yep.
He's going to be pinned. Duck Norton in second on that new bike. He's like such a good headspace and pinned.
Yeah, that's really strong, and I think this track is could suit him for that reason.
I listened to him on an interview as well, and he was saying that he thinks the roster will actually help him because then he has less time to think. So I was like, okay, like this could be good. Like people who'll benefit from that. Yeah, that's it.
Apparently, he's a hot mess before race on, like a hot mess, just full anxious. So, which I get.
Fair enough.
And then first is pretty tough, hey. But I think, Jackson might take it if he's racing. Hopefully, he doesn't crash and rupture his appendix.
That's the only thing that scares me with Jackson is that he is riding too fast, which sounds stupid, but he is quite young. He's obviously built himself up, but I don't want it to happen, and touch wood it doesn't, but I feel like it, he might need to tone it down a little bit to not crash.
I think so, but he's still kind of healing from that appendix thing.
Yeah.
I want to see Anna Newkirk get third in women's. Oh, that'll blow my mind.
Yeah.
I don't think it will happen, but it will blow my mind. But I reckon Tani will be on podium, second or third. Camille Blanche will be first, and then maybe Nina Hoffman in second, just because she can hold on.
Yeah, Nina's been going pretty quick lately.
And then I think if everything goes well, Sian might have a pretty good chance of being a dark horse, but we'll see.
I really want Sian to go well. Obviously, have worked with her a lot over the years. She's got all the pieces. I'll just be putting them all together. But I think with that team, there's a lot of focus, and it seems like it's a really good crew. So,
pretty game. What are your thoughts on that new giant paint job and glory thing?
I like it.
Dude, that thing is sick. Yeah, yeah. I had heard rumblings of that bike for the last few months, and I'd heard things about the adjustability. And I don't know, I think they did the same thing they did with the last Glory, which is they came out with something really good and something that will actually last for quite a few years. I remember when the original, I think it was the carbon one, came out, it was like either a 62.5 or so that's coming in on the drive. Maybe you go, Mick, so it's not loud.
That's right. I like it a lot. I like the colours. The Geo looks good. I don't know, it just looks like a balanced rig. I reckon it looks good. I haven't looked that close, but have they still got the Maestro set up, or have they gone away from that?
No, it's still the DW Maestro link. Yep.
Right.
I mean, sorry, just the Maestro link. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. No, cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, I know it kind of, it's one of those things. Like, I think for whatever reason, this is like your eyes are like really subconsciously good at picking up if there's something out of balance, and for that reason, like when something looks sleek and it looks fast, it usually is pretty fast. And yeah, I don't know, it just looks good. It's like it's miles and miles ahead of the last gen glory, which is cool.
Yeah, I found it interesting on the release as well. Like the last bike was 2014, and they're comparing it to that, which I thought was a little wild. You know what I mean? It's like, why even draw the comparison? Because it's 10 years ago, really, in terms of model years almost. I thought it was kind of wild, but yeah, I think it's a really cool bike. I think they've done a really good job. It's the same with the Rain. Like the Rain, they've done a really good job with too. So it's kind of three-quarter off that. And yeah, I think it's something that I think is very with the times. And then that paint job is just ridiculous. Like I feel every like 40-year-old plus man who quote unquote used to race downhill is probably pre-ordering one of those. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
The other interesting thing, and I want to ask Mick about it because you're now a bicycle manufacturer. It's only got 3 sizes. So it's small, medium, large, extra large. So there's only 3 frames. Okay, and then it's all done with adjuster.
Yep.
With different head cups.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's cool. I haven't looked into, other than seeing a couple of pictures, I haven't really looked into it that much. So they've got headset, like cups to adjust the reach. And have they got flip chips in the rear to adjust the rear center, do they?
They've got flip chips for the bottom bracket height and progressivity. And then they've got axle, the flip chips and the axle for chainstay length.
Yeah, all right. Well, so essentially you've got 6 frame sizes. Actually, we've got more because essentially you can leave the cups and do the backs. So, yeah, you've just say that you change each at any one time. You've essentially got 6 sizes. So I reckon that's sweet.
That's a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah, as long as I'm sure Giant will, but like as long as it's communicated to the end user that way and they understand sort of what they're getting, I think that's the most important thing with frame adjustability is the end user knows how to use it, but actually, knows what they're getting. But yeah, no, that's sweet.
Here's a fun fact. Sorry, I'm just on their website. Not compatible with 2023 or earlier RockShox Boxer Ultimate or Select.
Yeah, heard that. Yeah.
So that's now dead to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. Why do you think that is? Like head tube height or what?
Yeah, I think it's to do with I don't know what the reason is, but I know even with the Canyons, there's a thing with the cup adjustability as well. So I'm not sure if it's the crown size or the overlap, but yeah, in the Canyons, there's less reach adjust or less positions you can do on the Boxer versus on the 40.
You're right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's got to be due to the crown interface.
If it is due to the crown interface, I know someone that's pretty good at engineering and making custom parts that fit frames to frames and tweak with frames and stuff. So
yeah, I don't want anything to do with that.
I was fairly surprised at the price though, and not to throw shade because I think it's a good bike, but fork shock, obviously headset and frame, $9,000.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes me feel a lot better about Trinity then.
$9,000 for just the frame set and fork.
Frame shock. It comes with a fork with a 40. I think that's it. I presume that's with the paint job though. You know what I mean? So I assume that would be somewhat limited.
Yeah, even still, not to throw shade at Giant, but because they're made in a factory, the paint job, the cost to them would only be minimal more.
Yeah. I totally get it. Yeah. I mean, you may as well make hay while the sun shines, you know what I mean? If you're going to have a limited edition bike that is this old school throwback paint job, But then the complete model, which comes with the same fork and the same shock, is 11.5. So gone are the days of the glory being the, budget privateer bike. Yeah.
So does the complete? Can you get the complete in that color scheme?
Nah. It comes in like this white kind of color with the back end, which actually looks quite nice.
Well, that's the aim. Like that's the tangent that they've gone on. Then, isn't it? Like people are going to want this color, so we're going to only offer the color. Yeah. Okay.
Well, considering the fork and shock would retail for about 3.4 to 3.5, that means that frame alone's what, $6K?
Yeah.
That's
the boys at Chamberlain were talking about it when I was there the other day, and they were like, you could buy a V10 for pretty much the same price. You know, and they're at the upper scale, but I feel, for good reason. But yeah, anyway.
Well, Giant did do that huge rebrand a few years ago too,
which I like. I think I don't think it's a bad thing. So again, it's not trying to throw shade. It's just interesting. Like I remember when the Glory, and this was a long time ago, so bear with me, kids. But the Glory, I think, used to be $5,000 for the cheap one. It was the grey and black that came with the Boxer team, and then I think it was 7.5. That was the blue model that came with 40s, or in other years it was like a Boxer World Cup. Like they were alloy. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff that was different, but like they were the value bike to the point that people would buy those, strip the frame down, keep the parts, and do it onto another frame. So there's a big change there, but materials and everything have changed too. So
yeah.
Speaking about new bikes and stuff happening in that world, Mick, you've had a few bikes go out. We've talked about a little bit, but how's that feeling, and how was Handmade? Because that looks sick. Everything Dave Rome's put up has been rad. I had a lot of FOMO.
Yeah, Dave's the man. He covers a lot of stuff, which is really good. I really appreciate all the hard work that he does. But Handmade was great actually. Like this year for us was just so distinctly different than every other year, which has been really good. Like I didn't really think about it before the fact, like before going to Handmade. It's like, oh yeah, okay, like we're going to take 3 bikes, and which was a bit of a bigger setup for us, but didn't really think about it too much. And then the first afternoon when we rocked up, it kind of dawned on me a little bit. It was a bit of a smack in the face, because I was like, oh, I don't know, not to sort of blow smoke up our ass, but just that we'd done a lot in the last 12 months, because the first year we pretty well went with a Franken bike. And then the second year we'd only made one other bike. Like we really hadn't done much in 12 months. Kind of a lot of faffing. But then, in the last 12 months we've done quite a bit more than we did in the first 12. So, kind of just, it felt real, if you want to put it that way. And the fact that we were in market, I don't know, it was good. And that's why I think Handmade for us, like personally, it's a good anniversary, because it's a bit of a benchmark to reflect on the last 12 months. But it was good. I'm still tired. Like it was a big 3 days. But as you suggested, we're selling them now, and it's all moving.
I have a photo, Darren, which I'll just text you now, which is, I feel, encapsulates how Mick was, at least all weekend, or at least the Friday that I was there. He looks like Jesus is preaching to his disciples. It's pretty epic. It was just a lot of... it's good. I tell you, when Nigel was there, I'll send it to you after as well.
Just a standard weekend for Mick, isn't it? Like, just out there on the streets preaching.
I was just trying to say goodbye. I just couldn't. I got a video, actually.
That's too good.
Just didn't have a chance. It's too busy, which is good.
Feel like a wanker.
I wrote, no, not at all. Like I was going to say, I wrote down my little highlights, my top kind of 3. But the biggest one for me is the Trinity side of things, and it's not to blow smoke up your ass, and it's not because you're on the podcast, but to actually see in 3 years where the brand's come.
2 years. I should say 3 shows. 2 years.
Sorry, 3 shows, 2 years. It's fucking epic. Like,
thanks, man. No,
to go from a Franken bike to then a new bike last year, to then like on the eve of those bikes going out to customers. Like I just think that's the fairy tale story for that show. And if you spoke to Nathan about it, like he's ecstatic, you know what I mean? Like he runs the show and he's a rad human. I just think it's a fairy tale story. I know there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes in on the back end that, we don't see. But yeah, to go from that first bike with all this hype to actually selling them, I think is just amazing. And then to have some time to speak to Nigel and talk to him through the process of welding and how he's going through them and, how every bike has like a log to it. I was just like, this is fucking incredible. Like you see the worth of going down the handmade bike selection as opposed to going and buying something off the shelf.
For sure.
And even just talking to him about, UDHs and mounts, all this kind of stuff. He's like, yeah, we can do whatever you want. Like, it's pretty sick. There's no limitations then when you buy a bike. Like, I don't do this or I can't do this or, I thought it was incredible, man. Like, pat on the back. That's fucking awesome.
It's been a lot of work.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, fuck off. But yeah, it's just sick. Like, you have a bike now. Like, you have a bike that people can buy, and people are buying them. Like, it's done. It's not done. It's always going, but got it done.
Yep. Very good. What were your other two highlights from the show?
I had a really quirky one and a cool one. So I might go the cool one first because it's less story time, and then I could do the next one with story time. Prova, there's two bikes actually at Prova. The kids' bike was just rad. That was so cool. And seeing heaps of kids walking over that bike and thinking it's cool, I thought was sick. And I don't even like kids, so that's saying something. And then
your time at Fox really scarred you, didn't it?
No, it's not a kid, but I got my dog and I'm good, and that's my child. But
you woo girl.
And then my woo girl. So
it's good.
Dude, I was so sorry I made that. And then Dave Evans's bike, who I work with at SRAM, and not so much just because it's SRAM bike, but it was like a coupling bike from Prova. But you can't even see the couplings. And instead of those goofy bottom bracket like things that screw on, it's just a 5mm Allen key, but it's hidden through. And then that kind of encapsulated for me like what the modern road bike is or how I would build my road bike. So it was transmission with a 48 aero ring and I think 32mm tires. So it's just something you could kind of do everything with, which I think is perfect. It's a travel bike, you travel a shitload. It's the perfect travel bike because you're just never going to be like, oh, I can't do that on my gravel bike or I can't do that bunch yet on my road bike. Just kind of did everything really well. And then it had shifters of superb velo downhales bar taping on it, which is just gives me goosebumps looking at it. And then the other interesting one, and I'd never looked at this stand ever, and this all came from Nathan. So Nathan runs Handmade Bike Show, and he's not just an event organizer. He's like one of those creative dudes who loves stories, and he's all about the builders. He kind of has a really big legacy in history in bikes and with frame builders, and he always wants to tell their story. And he was standing there with me, and we were just chatting about mixed thing, and then he goes, "Oh, who do you think sells the most bikes here?" And would get kind of the most turnover. And I was like, "Oh, Baum." Baum, I think for me is the most famous of the builders and probably has the most international kind of esteem. And he's like, "No, look behind you." And behind me was the unicycle stand at the front of the show, which I've just never looked at. Like not unicycle, sorry, penny farthings. Penny farthings is not my jam. Don't know anything about them, right? But he made a really good point. He's like, he makes everything on those bikes. You can't go and buy stuff for those. And he goes, and those bikes are that custom that the wheel is made for the inseam of your leg. There's only a small amount of change that you can do for the crank length. He goes, there's a race series in the States where race series, the majority of the bikes that are made are those bikes. And he makes everything, like including spokes, saddles, grips, everything. And I was like kind of blown away by that. I just thought it was just some goofy dude, and it sounds so mean and naive of me to say that, who just makes penny farthings. And he's actually got, he's obviously a master of his craft and does what he does, and he's esteemed and, top of the line in his field. So that kind of blew my mind a little bit. So that was probably the other cool story from the weekend.
They also have the National Penny Farthing Championships in Tasmania every year in Evandale.
Really?
Yeah. And that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I never knew that was such a thing. So
yeah, there you go. Fun fact about penny farthing, if you want to relate it back to your gearing. When you have like a whatever rollout in your gearing, so like 50-inch, That basically means, that's the circumference of a penny farthing wheel that you need to have for the gearing to feel that hard.
Really?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because the cranks are essentially just attached to the hub.
Yeah.
So if you did the maths behind it, so say if you've got whatever 2.75 ratio of gearing times a 26-inch wheel, 29-inch wheel, that's all that's calculating.
Shit.
Yeah, and that's essentially the penny farthing because it's 1-to-1 crank attached straight to your wheel. So
it's also the original mullet. So
it is. That's true.
So true.
There's a big mullet.
Yeah.
It's Billy Ray Cyrus right there in a bicycle, just a huge mullet.
Yeah. You need to go next year, Darren, but have you seen many from the show, and did you have any standouts?
That Trinity was pretty sick. I was looking at something that Dave put up before. I couldn't remember it, but they all look so sick.
Yeah, it was the best show to date. Like, I just think everyone brought their A game. Obviously, COVID was over. There was a bunch of different brands there. And there's just a lot of cool new shit. Like, there was a lot more BMX bikes. There's a lot more mountain bikes. I think before the show for me, and it sounds really mean because I am a wanky roadie, was just a bit wanky roadie. And a lot of people wanted to go there to kind of be seen, to be looking at road bikes. And now it's all bikes. And I feel there's a lot, broader breadth of people coming in for it.
There was one by Devlin, which was pretty sick. But the green one, and the thing that I loved so much was the DIT routing that went through the mount for the front derailleur. It's a minute thing, but that just blew my mind. It's a roadie, not a mountain bike. Yes, I do look at roadies every now and then.
We'll allow it.
The one that it's ridiculous. I love it. The Killen bike. And it had the love heart on the stem and stuff, and the brazing is just rad. I don't know. There's something about that bike.
Yeah.
It was also cool to see carbon bikes as well. And how was your gearbox received? There. That's the other thing I wanted.
It was good. There's a lot of people were very interested in it. I guess like the handmade show attracts sort of a lot of bike riders from various sort of backgrounds and disciplines and whatever. So like, I guess like of course there were mountain bikers that were interested in it that might not have seen it before, but then there were people that saw it that didn't really know what I've been up to recently, which was always good, sort of going back to bare bones and explaining not just what it is but why and whatever, which was pretty cool. Typically, I don't know, some people, I mean, each their own. I don't really care. Some people throw shade at it because for whatever reason.
Did you get much of that at the show?
A little bit.
Really?
A little bit. A couple of comments here and there. The Instagram's always funny. I put up some of Dave's photos today, and people are like, "Oh, it looks shit. Looks heavy." I'm like, "Oh well, whatever. I don't really care."
If you don't want to run it, don't run it. Hey, do Instagram.
Yeah. I'm not forcing it down your throat, but it's kind of funny. Like the big one is like what's going on there? Like what is looks so complicated, and like fair enough. So like there's a bit of latticing and whatever going on with the CNC work, but like if you want to take the time to actually look at it closely, I think you see that it's really not that complicated at all. But
maybe you just need to do the Honda route and just put it in a box and make it like a secret, and then it would be like,
I think it's probably too late for that. I'm kind of bad. I'm bad at keeping secrets anyway, so
that's overrated.
No, but it was good. I mean, I enjoyed having it on display kind of as it was written, and I think a lot of people actually, like, we were talking about it before the show and we were kind of humming and ahhing. We're like, yeah, screw it, let's take a bike that's still got dirt on it and sort of that's been ridden, and that was really well received. I think if that was the only bike we took, it might have been not the best idea. But seeing as though we had 2 other pristine bikes, I think, a lot of people commented anyway that they thought it was a good touch. So it's good.
Yeah. I think just that, again, back to that story I was talking about, you know what I mean? Like, you've not only selling a bike, you've got this race-proven bike sitting there. Like, I think that's fucking epic. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's any other builders there rocking up with dirty bikes for many reasons, you know what I mean? But it's just like, you just kind of deep-handed yourself and you're like, check this out. It's cool.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah. No, it means a lot to us. But yeah, we'll just keep chipping away.
I think it's you mentioned this on a podcast a few episodes back, but like people were saying, when the fuck's it coming out, and stop teasing us and shit. But I'm pretty sure you have come out with a bike faster than Intense has come out with their new prototype. So that's just my theory.
It's just kind of funny, and again, like I don't care. Like I would like to think with anything that we've done, whether it's Trinity or WRP or whatever, we kind of haven't tried to force things down people's throat. But I do think it is kind of a little bit comical that like the people who will say like, hurry the fuck up, bring it to market already, blah, blah, blah. When you actually bring it to market, none of them are the ones actually paying for it. So it's like...
That's me. I was all keen up and then I bought another bike and now I don't have money.
No, you're an exception. Nah, it's kind of fun. It's the same reason like everyone who says like, I don't know, everyone who says a project is impossible will be the first ones once it's actually done to say it was easy. It's the same type of people. But
yeah. I think also like I don't know, like I think those figures in road bike for handmade are totally accepted now, you know what I mean? And the value for money you get from your bike versus other handmade bikes, especially the road bikes, is insane. But I'm also sure that'll take a bit of time to be received in the market as well.
And like,
you know what I mean?
And don't get me wrong, like I wish it wasn't as expensive as it is. That I think and not like this is Nigel's words, but I think it's just so well articulated, is if people actually saw the amount of work that went into the frame, you would think that $9,000 was cheap. Because, we're not into it to make money off it. Like $9,000 is pretty well, with the current methods that we're using to make it, $9,000 is like as cheap as we could make it to actually make another one. We're breaking even off the whole thing. So, and that's not even including paying ourselves back.
Yeah, when I was talking to Nigel, like, I think if you were to go down the route of buying a frame, the amount of communication from his end is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of questions he was talking about that he kind of pros with people and, make sure he's getting the mounting right if they do want a gearbox, if they don't want a gearbox, and what they can do here and there. And as I said, even to that point of kind of logging everything and going through what shoes you're going to be using and stuff, like that was pretty epic. And, I did a tour of Balm the other year and got the kind of talk through of how that worked in the same way. And once you hear that, understand it, and conceptualize it, then you definitely see where the money's going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's very similar to the chat I had with someone the other day that said transmission was way too expensive for what it is. And I'm like, they've had 10 engineers working on that for 5 or so years. Like, put that into the equation, you put into marketing, your product photos, your boxes. Like the boxes to send shit out is a 3-year process for some things. Like it's not just the material.
Yeah. And the testing and the teams. And like, I will never talk on pricing because it's not my place. But, I mean, like, at least in the spheres that I do, it's like no one's making millions from bikes. Like I think people think they do, you know what I mean? Like they're all businesses, they make money, but there's so much investment and all that stuff, you know what I mean? Like, I think it would surprise a lot of people. Like it's not the margin game I think a lot of people think it is sometimes. And I've had the same thing, like the transmission thing, dude, that's been massive for me because we're up at Cairns. Oh, that's ridiculous. It's so expensive. Like people being like offended by it is really weird. And it's like we as in SRAM make a group set that starts at like $600 with NX. If like the $3,000 one doesn't work for you, I'm sure between that one and this one, you'll find one that's pretty sweet. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no one's going to gun to your head to buy any of that new stuff. It's weird how people have reactions like that.
And then you think about going to buy race spec stuff, say like a pro car racer is running, and it's like that stuff's unattainable.
Yeah.
Full stop. Whereas this is attainable.
Yeah, you can buy a better bike than the pros easily in any mountain bike discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sick. You wanted to chat about something on Melamed's bike? Sorry, I know I just brought this up after the World Cup insights and stuff, but you wanted to chat about something on his Strive?
Oh, I just thought the whole thing was sick. Like, he just jumped on a Strive and won. Like, that's epic. And then coming down from the bottom of the run, his helmet can, you hear him say, and like, I honestly hope it's not marketing spiel. Doesn't seem like it. And he doesn't seem like the guy. He's like, this bike's fucking sick. Like, there's just genuine stoke there. Yeah, I think it's fucking rad. There was something in particular I wanted to talk about it, so I might grab it.
The reverse
Some of the
axis.
photos. Yeah, the reverse axis post is cool. Obviously, it's not something everyone can do. But yeah, it's just a normal seat post. I've had a lot of questions being like, is this a new seat post? And at least, as far as I'm aware, there is no new seat post.
I've definitely...
And they've done a bit of custom stuff.
It's not on that Strive, but I have definitely seen an Axis battery shoot off of another Strive after a harsh bottom out.
Yeah, I've seen it with a few bikes, man. Like a big one the other year was at where the fuck was it? Pineapple for whip off, because everyone was on the enduro bikes and all the kids put their seats down. I had 3 kids come up next to me, my battery broke off, and I'm like, "Can you put your seat down for whip off?" And they're like, yes. Then I was like, cool, I know exactly how this happened. Just so happened I had a bunch of batteries, so it was all good, you know what I mean? But it can definitely happen. I have opinions on it, which I'm not going to voice because I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, I think it looks really cool, and I don't know why it's not like that more. But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Kind of looks like you got a rip in your pants and your underwear a little bit when you're like riding along, and there's just like this bulge underneath the seat. Looks a bit awkward.
Yeah, no, it's I'm just stoked to see him back to his winning ways on a bike. I think when anyone has a change, it's scary, but he changed everything. And then, you know, even from a brand perspective, it's like, oh shit, is it going to gel with everything? And it just seems like it's working really, really well. So,
well, it seems like him and Jack, like they're both. I mean, Jack and I didn't change everything, but it was a fairly decent change, and they're both just ripping.
Yeah, like it sucked that Jack was sick, for sure. But yeah, I think for him, he's found his. I was going to say stride, but it sounds like stride. But I think that team just works better for him. You know what I mean? Like Canyon was good; he had good results on Canyon, but you know, you could kind of see visually that there was definitely some issues with the bike in terms of fitment and that kind of stuff, and running odd sizes and all. Likewise, it's just like the Capras is good to go. You know, he doesn't have this stupidly high handlebar. I think the infrastructure there completely supports Jack. You know what I mean? And then to see Paney and him. So Paney, his mechanic, I believe, he's an absolute G. I got a lot of time for him, but to see them back together, he was his mechanic on Intense for a year, but they didn't have good results because it was the year that all the parts changed.
Yeah.
He's pretty rad. It just worked out perfectly that Payne is now based in the UK, and it's easier for him to be his wrench in Europe, which is sick.
That's right.
I think Canyon, like I've got no affiliation with the team, but like Canyon would have to be up there with, like, I don't know, if you had your pick as an athlete, it'd be up there as one of the most sought after teams. Like, it just seems everyone who's part of the program has kind of just got it going on. Like, it seems that those guys will just do anything to make the athletes perform their best, which is pretty cool.
A lot of it's to do with Fab. Like, Fab is a really big part of that. And then Gabe's obviously a really good manager. And I think the fact they're both there now helps.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of Fab, how sick was that to see him get up?
Fuck yeah. And that bike is sick. Like, that Canyon bike, I think I shared that. Like, I have no affiliation with Canyon. I probably won't buy a Canyon because they're expensive, but is like that's the first kind of bike I've seen that I don't think I'd actually change anything on it. It's got the Bosch Performance Race motor, which is the best motor at the moment by far, that limited edition thing. All the parts are sick, and yeah, he just dominated. So I wonder if he's going to do the rest of the season now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan is. I didn't even know he was racing, to be completely honest. I just saw some helmet cam with him and Troy a while ago, and I was like, "Oh, mate's hooking." But yeah,
the Strive. He was on the Strive, yeah.
The other one he wasn't on the one with the goofy water bottle on the top. That thing. Yeah.
The Talk. Yep.
Yeah.
I did have a laugh at that Talk. They did like the special one for that moto dude. Name escapes me, and then he went to Yamaha.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Oh really? For Roxon or whatever.
Yeah. So he was on Honda and went to Yamaha.
Oh shit! I don't follow moto. That's fucking hilarious.
But no, that thing looks sick. Everything looks good. I still remember his section from like one of the New World Disorders when he was still on Kona, and they went to like Morocco, and he was just ripping.
Is that the one where he's in just like jeans and a t-shirt?
Yeah, and just bombing hills.
I think it's number 8, eh?
Yeah, I reckon something like that.
Yeah. That's rad. I was watching that not that long ago, maybe a month or so ago, and it's sick.
I want to know what they did to. Sorry, just choose. Yeah, I want to know what they did to Melamed's bike because he didn't fit on the Strive originally. So I want to know what they did. He did put up a little teaser with the linkage and the Fox thing. So that'd be really, really, really interesting. And there was like a little boxing. I'm trying to find the photo that was on his down tube that I don't know what that was. But yeah, I don't know what they've done. I don't know if they've changed that linkage for it to fit or what. But I know that's why he was on the Spectra originally, and they were changing stuff. So.
And he had something special on the rear shock for some things as well, but we can't go into that. And yeah, it's pretty sick. I know we're jumping all over the place. Good thing we had an agenda that someone did and is ignoring it. We brushed over the pivot before, but I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on that design, Mick, because it's got about 14 bearings in the linkage. I counted them. So
no, I reckon it's pretty sick. They were in Queenstown for a large part of the summer. Obviously I won't talk about it all, but and I'm a bit of a fan. Chatted to Barnaby about it quite a bit, but they were pretty well just pitted at the base of Skyline every day. I don't know. I'm a big fan of what they have going on. I always think that I don't know, different for the sake of being different isn't always the best, but different for the sake of progression is, I don't know, I'm just a big fan of that. So I'm fully supportive of their program. I think that's a really good thing, and those guys are ripping on that bike. Again, won't go too much into it, I guess, but those guys are ripping on that bike, particularly in summer. And I know they were doing a lot of back-to-back stuff, and the new one apparently is kind of streets ahead. So that's why I reckon not just because of the bike, because of the rider as well, but that's why I reckon some of the pivot boys could get up this weekend, see some good results out of them.
I think Bernie's in a good position. He was top 5 last year, and then I look at the bike now, and I've looked at it a lot because it looks sick. Being the owner of a DW Link bike right now, I think it's a really good linking system, and having road things that are quite similar to it in the past is far superior. So to see him invest in a new system, which is obviously where all those patents are linked to, I think is pretty epic. And the thing looks beautiful. on top of everything, speaking of aesthetics. But yeah, I think it's very, very different. But I think also with Pivot, I don't think they needed to make drastic changes unless, as you said, Mick, it was for actual progression and not just doing things differently. I think their old bike was fine. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what that will look like if it comes to production. Because obviously that's their rapid kind of production stuff, or at least it was. And Chris Kakalis talked about it on another podcast I listened to about that's kind of like their way to go through protos pretty quick. Because I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks and they can have a working frame. But it'd be interesting if that then does become a carbon mold or if it stays like that. Because if it stays like that, I think it looks sick.
It reminds me of Brooklyn Machine Works from back in the day.
A little bit, yeah. I think the higher idler probably inspires a bit of that.
With the two chain rings. Idler. Yeah.
Big idler. It kind of looks like remember the Profile Imperial sprockets? It's kind of a little bit of that aesthetic going on. I don't know. I think it's pretty sick. I think, I was having a look at it only 10 minutes ago. I don't know. I reckon it could be pretty close to what you're going to see in production, perhaps, because like a lot of the carbon molds, like the carbon tubing, just isn't straight gauge. Linear tubing. Like there's sweeps and bends and shit in it. So like for anyone that knows how much a carbon mold costs to actually get up, like even like I don't know if you got a photo in front of you, but even look at the stays, like the rear seat stays and chain stays. They've got because the original bit of, like carbon contouring.
The original protos were round tube that I saw, and it is grossly different. I hadn't noticed that.
So yeah, to me, it seems like it's further down the production track.
Very interested to learn the theory behind that idler with the kind of step down, having bigger idler affecting your pivot location, right? And the way that's all affected.
I mean, you can read Dave Weagle's patent online if you want. I've read it.
I can't read.
Oh yeah, same. Unless it's in a 60-second Instagram video, I don't want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a couple of arguments for it. Like one being like obviously that idler in air quotes is a lot larger, so your chain wrap's bigger, which means it's more efficient because the bigger the circumference the chain has to bend around, the bigger. The second being is obviously if you put the idler up high where it needs to be and with a high pivot and it's driving back, is you're not asking as much out of your tensioner either, because it's not technically wrapping under your chain ring in that circuit. Like the circuits are split in a different but kind of similar way, a little bit like Lal Bikes has with their drivetrain, I guess, like splitting the tensioner and splitting the indexer. So yeah, I know, like, and he highlights all that in the patent like pretty well in the summary. So I'd actually recommend giving it a read because it's kind of interesting. Like, to be honest with you, when I first read the patent, it got leaked out of the wheel-based Instagram page, and I had a read, and I was like, oh yeah, got some merits, but then whatever. And then it was literally like very soon after, saw it in Queenstown, and then it kind of tied it together. I'm like, it makes sense. Saw it in practice. So,
I mean, the other thing I noticed as well on that bike is we've all seen the transmission got rid of the derailleur hanger, and it looks like on this bike they added a couple. It's so far away. The derailleur hanger.
What about it? It's on the pivot, you're saying?
Yeah, it's just there's like 3 bolts between the frame and the mech. So you got the derailleur hanger, which looks like a UDH.
Yeah, it's definitely UDH.
Then an extender that bolts into the rear.
Oh, because of the Shimano. Yeah, the Shimano extender. Yeah.
It looks.
I think that's just kind of the nature of the Saint stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I get what you mean now. Looking at it, I think it does. I think the angular photo just makes it look a bit more apparent. But someone's making it. I shouldn't say it, but someone is making a UDH thing that makes those direct mount on to frames. I saw it on somewhere the other day, and you can get rid of that little linky plate that little linky plate, it's not really bias throwing shade, but when I used to race and used to be helped out by Shimano, those little linky plates would bend like really easily, and they didn't have them as a replacement part. And then you had to replace the whole thing because of it. And you're just like, oh, this is annoying. But I'm sure it's changed now. But that was actually the same generation groups still around.
It was 10 years old.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, but looking at it now, it does look kind of weird from that angle. But yeah, that is the nature of the beast.
I mean, Shimano does make stuff direct mount. Like all the XT or the XTR stuff can be direct mounted to a hanger.
Well, all of that design was to do the direct mount originally,
but that frames
was all
adopted
what it was
it.
For. Yeah, no one really adopted it. I think GT went pretty deep with it. I remember like them, and that's the only one I can remember, to be honest. Yeah,
Cube did a bunch of them. Like they all came in. Yeah. And Cervelo road bikes come with either an Axis or a Shimano direct mount hanger. So, yeah. Are you using UDH on the Trinity, Mick? Can't remember.
Not currently, but we're in design phase at the moment, because obviously it's something that what not only people want, but something that we want to offer. So, yeah, we had done the design of that hanger and the interface into the dropouts sort of prior to the UDH coming out. So, yeah, we're kind of flat out at the moment incorporating that. The good thing about our design, I guess, is, people don't need a whole other frame. It's quite easy just to send them parts and to do with the drive side dropout, and, you're all go. So that's kind of handy from our side of things. But, so any customers that get it and want a UDH, we can make that happen pretty easy.
That's rad.
Should we move on to some tool talk stuff? Or is there anything on the World Cups that you wanted?
I don't know. Good luck to all my friends racing.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah.
I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see this KISS thing on Troy's bike. So when that thing first came out, I was like, "This is trash. This is stupid. I hate this," which is terrible. I'm very prone to doing that a lot with stuff. But Flo put up a review of it with Will, and I think Will really talked through it quite well, and I think they show the riding off really well and the potential for that system. Right. And I didn't go out and, as you did today, put an Oki strap on my handlebars, Darren. But
it doesn't work, by the way. Just saying. Don't go do that.
I am interested to see how that goes and if it stays on the bike, and I hope it's a benefit. But yeah, if you're interested in it, I'll tell people to go to something else. But yeah, that bit on Flow was pretty interesting with it. Just how it kind of changes the steering. So you're kind of controlling the back wheel a lot more with the front wheel, which I thought was quite interesting.
The guys at Pink Bike, I think it was Kazima, was saying it's super weird because it gets harder to turn as you turn more. So as you're turning back to the center, your wheel and your bars pick up speed and almost go back the other way.
Yeah, I was listening to that as well, and it sounded pretty scary. Like, I think on a downhill bike, I think it sounds good. On a trail bike, it could be terrifying. I don't know, but interested.
Yeah. I mean, if Troy's run, he said this track isn't the one for it either.
Yeah.
But those guys don't fuck around. To put it bluntly, like they do shit when it works.
Yeah.
Tool talk. Lockie, do you want to lead us off, because this is your kind of idea and I rate it?
I can. Yeah. So it's not just be tools, I suppose, but it's just things that make my life easier because I'm building bikes all the time. A lot of that is tools. I just think there's a lot of stuff, especially from the tool side. Like there is a lot of information and there's not a lot of information about tools. You know what I mean? Like you kind of see stuff on the gram, but openly on websites, it can be a little bit hard to find. Like even with Abby stuff, people don't really know where to find it. So I kind of have three in no specific order. One of which, one's a tool, one's bike related, and then one's wheel related. So they're not really all tools at all. But the first, at least tool wise, I I put up a video this today. This is the SRAM piston press, and I'm not trying to disprove shit because it's SRAM, but this pushes your pistons evenly. And if anyone has heard me talk about replacing bottom brackets or bearings in frames, it's that you don't hammer shit in. You use a press, because presses move things evenly and don't notch surfaces on the opposing side to where the force is coming from. So this is the same, and the old tried and true method for me was just using an 8mm and quite as evenly as possible pressing pistons back. The only downside with that is once you get pressure from one piston, it pushes the other piston out, and you kind of play this vicious circle of trying to get everything back as much as possible. Whereas that just pushes everything back evenly, and the pin sits in there. So it's got a little wedge, and you screw the thing down, and it pushes everything back. So it just makes life way easier for brake bleeds. And then you push the pistons back, and you don't need to put a bleed block in. So like all my bleed blocks now live in a spares container in the bottom of my bottom of my actual workshop, and then I just set that in the toolbox. So that one's rad. To use. Just make sure you clean your pistons before you push the pistons back, because that's bad. And this is a mini ramp, but just isopropyl and water. That's all you need. Don't use any aerosol based things on pistons when pushing them back. It's very, very bad. And if anyone wants to discuss with why that is, you can slide into the DMs.
Yeah, I just put my WD-40 in a bowl first, and then just use a brush.
Fuck. I will change one out because I had one that was shock related, but I'm going to kill that one off. I go with another tool, which is the Jesus pliers, which I have out. I said, they're Nipex pliers. They come in a variety of sizes. I actually recently bought the 250, which I have here. Those puppies. I've kind of joked ever since talking about the track lathe with your Dremel, Mick, that these are the track vice.
Track vice, yeah.
But that's how I use them. So they're adjustable spanners, but instead of adjusting, they lock into place, and then all the newer models will actually have the size printed on the top as well. So I don't carry any spanners in my toolbox except for an 8mm and 10mm for road brakes, and then those are my two spanners for everything. Because they lock into place as well, you never round any surfaces. So if you're dealing with suspension stuff and you're moving piston heads, it'll actually hold in place. Even on other brands of suspension top caps, if they don't have a cassette tool, these are really good to crank the thing off as well. Just don't use too much force because you can clamp stuff. But these are just an awesome tool to have, and they kind of do everything really, really well. I use them a lot of the time with like rear shocks if I'm stuck and don't have a vice, but you can hold the damper body and then undo piston heads, and reverb collars fit even with the small one as well. If you move reverb collars, or a lot of dropper post collars. So they're not the cheapest things as well, but they're not the most expensive. I think the small one's about 160, and I think the big one was about 200, 250. But I think they're worth their weight in gold. You don't need the big one. I only got this recently. I've had this one, or the other one in the workbox, for probably 5 or 6 years. Whereas the big one I've only had in the last 6 months. So you don't need that one, but I use a lot of the shocks and stuff I do with now. It's just definitely handier. So that's an awesome one to have in your toolbox, especially if you've got limited stuff to travel with overseas. Like, take that. You can do everything with it. You don't have to take a bunch of spanners, which is fucking awesome. The other one as well, and I did an Instagram post about this week, and it sounds trivial, and they are expensive, but it's those reserve valves. This isn't sponsored. I buy those literally from the bike shop down the road as well.
How much do they cost again?
They're $79 for two. Yeah. I get a little bit of a discount at the shop, but I was an early adopter of tubeless. I was on 823s for 10 years ago, and I've always seen the benefits in tubeless, but the amount of fucking time I've wasted dealing with clogged valves or not getting enough air into the tire to get it to seed would be in like the weeks at this stage. And like when stuff doesn't seal, I just crack it absolute shits. There's a lot of cool tricks you can do. Obviously, taking the valve core out's your number one, but then even then, once it does bead, then you're trying to get the thing back in. And if you're in the middle of nowhere in Leogang trying to tubeless stuff, and it can just go bad really, really quickly. but yeah, I just really like those valves. They've also got a really nice seal on the inside that seals on the rim. So they work on pretty much all rims, which is good. They work on a taper and actually wedge in and then compress. So they're not a shape like a lot of tubeless valves are. And I don't know what the rubber is, but it's a harder rubber than just a butyl which come in a tube. So it doesn't kind of corrode and die over time. So the original set of those I bought, probably it would have been 18 months ago when they came out, like literally the way they came out. So I need these and I still got them. They're on the pivot wheels on the revolve. So I really like those. They just save me a shitload of time. The only downside is you can't pump sealant through them. If you're someone who does pump sealant through stuff, I'm sure there's a way if you wanted to, but I don't. I just dump in a tire in a jar and measure it. But that's the only real downside I have with those. But they're easy to adjust as well, your pressures. And then when you're using one of those, someone mentioned this, it could even been you, Darren, the noise they make when you take your tool off. It sounds like when you're removing an IFB tool from a rear shock. It's just like tink,
yeah,
it's sealed, which is nice. But then you're also never having to deal with that kind of hiss you can get if there is a clog after you take your pump off. So as soon as you take your pressure, take the gauge off, your pressure's good. So they're kind of my main things that make my life easier, I suppose. Even with the Nipex pliers too, actually. So I used to use that to press my pistons in and hold pistons in before I had that as well. So there could even be some overlap with some of those. So, yeah.
I'm keen to hear what makes Mick's life easier from the engineering and manufacturing side of things.
Oh, dude. So I've had a bit of a workshop reshuffle at the workshop here in Oz. So I've got a couple of different tool walls. So the one behind me is far from complete, but I'm kind of making a bit of a shadow board. I've got another one sort of down this side that's got most of my other tools on it. That one's nearing more sort of completion. I don't know. There is, obviously there's a lot of tools that overlap between sort of prototyping and engineering and general bike tools, like obviously Allen keys, Torx, stuff like that. One that I've always had lying around, I've had only a couple of them now, but I guess buying good ones is paramount because the cheap ones are just horrible. But a good deburrer, I rate a good deburrer. Ooh. So if you say cut down your bars or cut down your steerer or whatever, there's nothing more fascinating, because I only did this the other day, nothing more fascinating than going around with a good deburrer, and it just takes it off like butter and has a nice edge on it that you're not going to cut yourself on. So I rate a good deburrer.
I love it when you deburr the inside of your bars and it comes off in one piece.
Yeah,
it just cuts it through, and it's the best.
Yeah. Like I said, the cheap ones are terrible because it'll want to come off in flakes, kind of thing. But if you buy a good one and the blade's sharp, and you know how to use it, then like you're saying, you can get it in kind of one pass, and it's pretty sick. And good for prototyping stuff too, because a lot of the time something prototyped will be not finished like a commercial product, so it's pretty easy just to whip around it.
Is there anything you're using for measuring and stuff that no one else would kind of use in your usual workshop, or is everything so computerized that it's different?
No, I mean, the most commonly used tool that I use is a set of vernier calipers. So I vernier everything. Even a lot of parts that I make, depending on the part, but even a lot of parts I'll cat up by literally taking measurements with a vernier. Because if you're apt with a vernier, then I don't know, they're pretty great. A micrometer is really good. If you want to get really dialed and particularly measure diameters or whatever, it's really, the micrometer is really good. But my vernier would be probably the most used thing as far as prototyping is concerned. And again, a good one is great. Shit ones are terrible, because you always seem to be zeroing them, and I don't know how accurate they are is Yeah, I don't know, but a good one is really, really good.
What brand do you use, actually? I mine's bigger, but yeah, for shims, same with shims as suspension, they've got to be fucking super accurate.
I don't know what brand mine is. Where is the fucking thing? Oh, no. I can't read it from here. I think it's a Japanese stainless steel one. But, yeah, I like it a lot. I've just bought another one because me and Mitch always seem to be like, oh, borrow the vernier for a tea, like, but you're grabbing it away from them. So I just bought another one. But yeah, like I said, like the one that I just bought, I don't know how much it was. I think it was like $80 or $90, but like, which isn't a lot of money, but like for a vernier, like the point is you can get one off eBay for like $10. But I'd much rather spend a little bit more money and get like a full stainless one because they just last so much longer.
Yours digital? Was that analog?
Mine is digital, but I was having a chat to Dave Habich the other day, and we were just kind of spitting shit, and we were kind of having a laugh at how many people wouldn't know how to read an analog vernier. I remember my old man just drilling it into me and my brother when we were kids, like how to read an analog vernier. But yeah, I reckon it should be like a thing. You should have to be able to read one to pass engineering school.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, engineering 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm never going to learn how to read one, but for engineering, you should.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway.
If anyone's interested in mine, number one lately has been the Vice Whip from Pedro's. Mainly because I spend a lot of time swapping out chains and cassettes on commuters.
Those things are sick. Yeah, I haven't used the Pedros, but yeah, that was a game changer for me with those.
And the new one's better because it doesn't go on the teeth anymore. It goes like between them. So it kind of has a guide and then just two knobs that come outside. So it works with any cassette. So there's no issues. You don't have to manufacture some random piece of steel with an eagle chain on there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a bit of a pain out for the conventional chain whips, I will admit.
My other favourite one, controversially, has been sram.service.com.au or sishimano.com.au, where you find all your tech docs and your instructions. Because apparently people can't read them. I literally had a head stem come in the other day that had no gap written on the head stem.
I saw that, dude.
And there was a gigantic gap there. And I'm like, how the fuck did... Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, it had one job. No, the tech doc, what did I put up the other day? And someone's like, they had an acronym for it. Read the fucking... Yeah, RTFM, read the fucking manual. And I was like, yes. Yeah.
And I can't think of the third. Maybe like a decent... I think I said a decent pick or something sharp, because the amount of time like just opening up gear cable. I mean, I know you guys, Lockie, you don't have to deal with gear cables anymore, but you still got to open them up for us poor people. And
hey, I'm poor. I just I'm
just kidding. Opening up gear cables, getting out gear cables, fucking around with shit, getting cables out of frames.
But I bought a really good pick from Pat at Lead Out. And it was an EVT, and I have no idea what it is right now. It's going to crack me. But that is a sick pick. It's just a metal pick, but it has like a nice little handle on the end, but it's something you can kind of resharpen, but it's pretty solid. I bent it the other day, like stabbing into something. But yeah, they're really, really good picks.
I've been using the ones from Worth. They've been pretty sick.
Yeah. Worth that's always good.
Well, fun fact, I'm pretty sure Nipex make all the stuff for Worth. So all their like cutters and stuff are really good.
Yeah, right.
The one tool I wish I had is that Avi Tools tool for getting the crank cap off, the extractor cap for stream stuff.
Oh, yeah. If you remind me when I'm back from holidays, I might have a spare one.
Because I've got
two. And I got my toolbox right here, so I'm just showing time.
Been sick.
Yeah,
I've noticed like relubing that washer between the crank and the crank bolt on those cranks stops them from locking up.
What's this one? Sorry, on Is this on Shimano cranks, you're saying?
Dub cranks.
Oh, dub cranks.
Yeah.
So they got the extractor ring.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Tracking. Copper paste in there, I find, is very worthwhile.
We've got like a copper infused grease.
Yeah, sick. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where we found it, but we got it from somewhere, and it's definitely stopping that issue. Yeah. And don't forget your pedal washers, kids, because that shit gets expensive.
I actually lost a pedal washer at Cairns. It was one of those things that you think you lose one and you've got one other. You're like, it's a prick. I've got a lot back here, which is all good.
I was going to say, I've got fucking drawers that are working.
One of those things, man. You lose one. And it was so silly too, because I had my bike upside down and it was just on the grass. I was putting pedals on and I dropped it. And I literally saw where it went, but I was buggered if I could find it because it just vanished. But anyway.
This is sacrilege, but I don't use pedal washers, and I haven't for about 5 or 6 years.
Even on your roadie?
Even on my roadie, because my spindle doesn't stick through the end. I don't run long spindles.
You don't run with pedals.
I'm kind of a bit...
last time I ran them was on Look.
Yeah.
I'm a bit like OCD with it. Like when I lost one, I'm like, well, it's stupid to run one on one side and not one on the other. So
100%, because your Q factor would be off.
Yeah, exactly. So I ran none. And to be honest with you, I'm a little bit the same, Lockie. Like the only cranks that I do run pedal washers on carbon cranks, but these were a set of carbon cranks and it was fine because obviously they got aluminium sleeves in the carbon cranks. So I'm like, I'm not really in a rush to go do it, particularly when you're taking pedals on and off all the time and traveling and whatever. Anyway, someone out there is probably screaming at the screen being like, oh, you're meant to be an engineer, use washers. But I...
Not the same. So some of the Shrams like, why are you running pedal washers? But I don't touch wood, break cranks, and I don't have drummers, and I don't run pedal washers. Actually, one of my bikes has 2 pedal washers on one side right now, but that's for another time.
You know what I think is a bit criminal though? I think I don't know. The threads on my pedals I always try to keep relatively well greased. And I think that's half the reason for a washer is so when you're actually tightening up and putting torque on it, you've got a slipping surface. So it's not just binding on the surface you're trying to thread into. So I get that sort of point of view, but for anything that's meant to, I don't know, be done up or whatever. Yeah, grease your stuff.
My pedals.
I remember again. This is a Dave Habbage thing. I don't know the exact numbers he threw out, but I think it was pretty funny in typical Dave fashion. But he's like, if you grease it or you put a washer on, you've got an extra couple of Newton meters of torque.
Yeah,
that's really funny, but it's so true.
It's so true, man. Grease. Yeah, I ran about this on a regular basis, but you need grease to get the right torque. You know what I mean? But my pedal threads, literally anytime I take pedaling out, I'll get more grease put on them. You know what I mean? So, and I don't honestly, once again, I don't use a torque wrench on them, but at least with SRAM cranks, it's 54 Newton meters of torque. It's a lot of torque that pedals need. I think that number's more there because people don't tighten them up enough, as opposed to people over tighten them. I've never seen an over tightened pedal beyond getting a pedal off, but I've never seen someone strip a pedal from over tightening it.
Yeah. Did you see, talking of pedals and cranks and whatever, at Cairns in the dual slalom, did you see the guy's crank fall off?
No. I honestly didn't watch much racing, Yeah.
Dude, it was a horrendous crash. So I think he's okay. I haven't really seeked an update since, but I will say just from the get-go, because I might have brought this up on the podcast before, if you have any Shimano cranks with the polymer preload bolt, please just throw away the polymer preload bolt and get an aluminium one. There's a couple of companies that make it. I think Bergtech is one that make it. Anyway, of any Shimano cranks, I have an aluminium preload washer because I've had my cranks fall off the top of my head twice. So it's always a non-drive side. And essentially what happens is if that polymer preload bolt is done up, well, was going to say too tight, but from my experience, you don't need to put really any tension on it. Like if you just nip it up, it'll strip the threads, but you don't always know the threads have stripped. And then you'll do up the pinch bolts, whatever, and you'll be riding along and the polymer preload bolt will crack, fall out, and basically your crank arm will fall off. Now, the first time it happened to me, I felt like a dickhead because I assumed that I'd left the preload bolt out, but I couldn't figure it out because I'm like, of course I put the fucking thing in, whatever. But literally I've seen it happen to, I don't even know, man, 50 plus people. Like it's a danger waiting to happen. So if you've got a polymer preload bolt, please just put an aluminium one in like Shimano used to spec all their cranks with. But anyway, this poor guy had this exact thing happen to him. And I crashed on this jump last year for another reason. But, you know, like on the dual slalom track, straight off the start, kind of left, right, dip, and then there's a triple. And his crank fell off right at the lip. And it was honestly like one of the worst crashes to witness I've ever seen in my life. Like it was fucking horrendous. So yeah, a bit of a tangent, but make sure that preload bolts.
You know what the solution is there, Mick?
What's that?
Sure. Get some different cranks, yeah.
Well, thanks to the fine people at SRAM, I currently do.
Well, fun fact on that little tangent, but there's a reason that Shimano only make that tool, like a little disc for the preload, is to stop people from over torquing it.
Yeah, I know, and that's like I clinically have only ever used that little disc, and I just think I don't know why they've made a polymer preload cap. Maybe for weight, maybe for manufacturing. I don't know, but it's so silly because that thing will strip. Like you could strip it with your finger if you wanted to.
It's the same.
I think with it, like they assume you chuck those cranks on once and maybe service the bottom bracket. Like beyond that, I don't think they particularly care. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe it's even something. I'm sure if you dig into the tech docs, there's probably something about replacing it or something. You know what I mean? Or probably, somewhere Shimano would say something like
link.
Yeah, but it's funny. Like the size of that disc that they make is literally the same size, pretty similar size to the preload collar on SRAM, which is also plastic. You know what I mean? So on both systems, they're not something to fasten; they're just there for a minor amount of preload.
Well,
but
I guess the difference about SRAM and Shimano though is that the SRAM preload disc is inboard of your crank arm and is purely just.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I was just saying it's interesting the size against preload, but no, I totally get
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I think that's why the SRAM thing is a good setup because it's inboard and it's like you reef your cranks up as tight as they go, so the cranks can't come off, and then you adjust your preload. Whereas Shimano's kind of like you need to adjust it first to get the crank set, and then do your pinch bolts. But then anyway.
The Saint ones from memory, they were metal, weren't they? Like,
the
last crank they ran, and there's
all Saints metal still are.
Yeah. I wonder why that is. Like, I wonder if that's to do with it. You know what I mean?
XTR doesn't have that system at all. Yeah, it's lighter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not up with the Shimano stuff, but it's interesting that Saint has that.
Not enough people check the compression bolts more than once, so they'll do the outside one up to 12
all the time.
Do the inside one up to 12 and go, she's good, but then you can go and add 4 or 5 turns on the outside one. That easy. Yeah.
Dude, at the shop, like that was the bread and butter of roadies. And power meters and everything. Like, one was done up. And I did both. I'm like, you did do both, and then the thing squished, and then the other one's now loose. Like, dude, that happens all the time. And people are really, really bad with not using torque wrenches on those bolts too, which is pretty. You only really do it to a point, and it's still one of those bolt snaps, and then you're like, fuck, and then you use a torque wrench from then on. But
that's the argument about like split clamps. So on moto, like on dual crowns, like on the crowns. How they've got like a split between the two pinch bolts, so you can actually see the stanchion through, or the upper through, and like MTB don't really do it, but that's the argument for that. Like putting the split there means that each time you do one up, it's done up individually. So like you nip one, nip the other, and the other shouldn't have come so loose yet. Whereas say on, you get the idea.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, people. The same with a big one is on you see a lot of Giants, but the dual bolt seat clamps. You know what I mean? And people over tightening, or usually it's actually over tightening on because one of the bolts will end up being ridiculous because they do maybe go back or too much or just do one too much. But yeah, they're and then you get a lot of stiction on your drop post because they're a 3.9 tube. So
on polymer bits, one thing that's been annoying me lately, I know we're going down a rabbit hole, but the I don't know if you've dealt with the cross stems that use a plastic or polymer expander ring in their headsets.
No.
Yeah. So like Canyons, YTs, there's a bunch of them. They use a polymer or a plastic expander ring on their headset.
Oh, for the headset. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, those are terrible. Yeah.
So I've had heaps of people complaining their headsets creak, and it's because that expander ring is now flat because it's just crushed.
Yeah, those are shit. And then the plastic headset spaces that come with that branded headset, which I think is Across, are absolute trash. I see that all the time, and people are like, "Oh, my headset's loose, but it's tight. It's because the whole thing's flex. Just get rid of them and go buy some cheap alloy ones. Like you don't even need nice carbon ones, but
literally
plastic,
anything.
Yeah. The only reason I feel that some of those plastic wedges have some advantages is on road bikes with carbon steerers, because there's a massive problem at the moment with them getting that ring of death in them, and I think plastic could potentially be the answer. Personally, I actually think an alloy sleeve would be better on the tube itself, more than a plastic race, because the races over time are going to do the same thing on a roadie. They'll just wear, and then because it is all integrated on those bikes now, that you've up for a very big replacement to swap that out, unless it's got a split in it. So, but yeah, there's plastic in the headset, like, no, not into it at all.
I'm just kind of against plastic anyway, to be honest with you.
I can't really think.
Sometimes in years gone by, I haven't thought that way, but the more I do, engineering wise, I'm not against stuff. Because the other thing with plastic is it perishes too. Like, depending on but like in the sun, it perishes and shit. It's not a good long term solution unless it's purely sacrificial, of course.
Yeah.
But
like bash guards. I'm like looking at my bike now and see what's plastic, except the frame is just kind of plastic. But bash guard, mud guard, plastic. That's kind of it. And like my Wahoo mount, because I want that thing to break if my computer gets hit. You know what I mean? Because
just a fun fact, because sorry to take it back bloody an hour, but on the penny farthing thing, because I just looked this up.
I'm all for penny farthing facts.
So because I don't really feel like I articulated what I was trying to say very well either. But for the BMX fans out there, so like the go-to BMX gearing in BMX racing is 4416. Now, this is according to Google anyway. So penny farthing wheels come in a variety of front wheel sizes, anywhere from 40 to 60 inches. But the standard penny farthing front wheels, 55-inch diameter, so from top to bottom. So this is kind of what I was meaning. So 4416, if you divide 44 by 16, it's 2.75. And 2.75 times 20, being a 20-inch rear wheel, is 55 inches. So the standard gearing on a BMX and the standard gear on a penny farthing is exactly the same. Of course, you can change that, but that's kind of, that's where you get your rollout from. So 55 diameter, it's the same as a 4416 on a 20-inch BMX. Quite easy to do mass.
Makes me wake up in a light sweat at night. And actually, one of my mates, I think, might have contacted you the other day about junior gearing and rollout. But
Oh yeah. Well, and the rollout, I guess the rollout is to do with then your circumference. So circumference you will, but your 55 is diameter top to bottom. But the rollout in what you're discussing, Lockie, the whole junior thing. So I was chatting to, what was his name again? Todd, that's right. Yeah, he reached out in a bit of a kerfuffle, and just so I'm actually sold out of those. I've still got some prototype ones, but I wouldn't sell him one. But I sent a lot of surplus up to Oz Cycling, so he ended up getting one through those guys. But this is so road, because last year, for people that aren't aware, so juniors had to have a certain bandwidth of rollout, but they had to be on, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this too, by the way, but they had to have a certain bandwidth of rollout, but they had to run a standard group like Axis or SRAM Red or whatever it was. But the only way that they could get within that bandwidth was to run a 37 front chainring, and no one really makes 37 front chainring. So I made 37, and it meant that they could race within that regulated bandwidth. Now, this year, this year apparently they'd changed the rules, so everyone was relaxed about it, because they're like, oh, we can run standard equipment, blah, blah, blah. And they've only found out, like only during the week, that only for one race in Belgium, because whatever rules and regs they've got to meet just to race in Belgium, is now they need 37s. So it sounds a bit ridiculous, but anyway, they're on the hunt for 37s. So.
It's insane, dude. And also the big one, I suppose, for everyone too, is at 37 you won't get from most brands, because they can't do a narrow wide design then, because it's an odd number. So that's kind of part of it. But like that whole thing, because I remember, it's all of that gear rollout thing is to do with some old fucking study with kids' knees or something, and then in the last, I think, 12 or 18 months, it's changed, and they've realized that having big gears doesn't affect kids' knees, and it's just, I don't know, I think it's stupid. I'm so happy we don't have to deal with that stuff in mountain biking, because like it's just such a barrier to entry for people, into race.
Right? Yeah, I mean, so I did these 37s, and like I'm not going to come on here and try to spruik like trying to be a nice guy or anything, but like I kind of wanted to help Oz Cycling out. Like I didn't even charge enough money to cover my cost with that project. Like it was just wanted to get it done. But there's another company, I think they're Italian, who actually do a 37, and they were charging something like $700 a front chainring, because they knew they kind of had a monopoly, and they knew that these people needed to meet the regs, so they just cashed in on it. And I reckon, again, with the barrier of entry thing, it's just like, it's fucking ridiculous, to be honest with you.
I just don't, I don't know how bodies work, so I can't be one to be like, oh, kids won't mess their knees up, maybe they do need smaller gears, but like surely there's a point where it's like, whatever SRAM makes the smallest is, just because I know them off the top of my head, it's like a 4330. You know what I mean? Like, surely we can just deal with that. You know what I mean? Like, surely that's enough rollout and enough range, or whatever it is, that we just say, look, and kid juniors have to run compact. You know what I mean? And then that's it. You know what I mean? Like, that makes way more sense than, this real specific rollout. Because the thing they banned for a while, they used to be able to lock out gears, but now you can't lock out gears.
Well, and I was about to say, that's the part where it gets a bit ridiculous, right? So for one, they implement this bandwidth thing, but then they also then they say to add another layer onto it, well, you can't lock out gears. And it's like, well, you have to go back to your point.
Which I used to think the same as you. I was like, that's stupid. But then there was instances of parents adjusting limit screws after checking, which I had not even come to mind when I thought of that. I just thought it was like a mechanical thing, like this isn't a great system. But a lot of bikes now, you can't even lock stuff out anyway. So just brakes, motors and things.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another tangent.
Yeah. Anyway.
I forgot to add to my tool list the 3-way Allen key, by the way. I don't know if you've looked at the shop.
3-way, yeah.
That is the best tool ever.
I got one that I really, really like. We might have covered this last time. What's the nuke-proof house brand of tools? What are they called again?
They have a house brand of tools? I did not know about this.
Yeah, they do. It's not obvious either. I tried to find it, but they do. I'm on the back foot. It's on the tip of my tongue what this tool brand is called, but it's essentially, the Nuke Proof house brand, and they are fucking wicked. They make in particular, the Allen keys. Like Allen wrenches, so they're like a T-bar, and by far the best set of tools I've ever used as far as Allen keys are concerned. I really, really like them. They've even got like a helical end, and for those that aren't aware of like a helical Allen wrench, it's so you can get out stripped Allen bolts, because basically the harder you twist in like the anti-clockwise direction, so helical is helical in a way that it wants to drive in harder when you turn it anti-clockwise. So you strip the head, and like I was surprised, man. I didn't think they would work as well as they were, but the heads can be literally fucked, and you can still get them out. They're very, very good.
What's it? Lifeline?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Lifeline. That's it.
Yeah.
How did you find that?
So Brobike in NZ, where WRP's got an office set up, they had a set, and I was like, I was using them. I'm like, whoa, these are the best set of like Allen wrenches I've ever used. They're like, yeah, they're Lifeline, like the Nuke Proof house brand. I was like, get fucked. And the more the time goes on, the more people kind of have been cotton onto them. I've met a few more people with them. I'm going to get a set for the workshop here because they are fantastic, man. Honestly, like very, very impressed.
$98. They're on sale, but fucking treat yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, you won't regret it. They've even got like the alley sleeve. So like on the T-bars, they got alley sleeve so you can hold it and spin it, which is, it's just the little nuances that make the difference.
Like the Park Tool ones, except they don't snap. I mean, yeah. yeah, they got that real bitey end on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah. Where'd you find them, on Wiggle or something?
Chain Reaction.
Chain
it's all the
Reaction,
same company. Yeah, the 3-way's good because you can do up all 3 bolts real quick and easy on front end, except for when it's a certain brand that uses a 4. So I did a bike the other day. It had a 4, a 5, a T10, a T25, and a T15 all on the handlebars.
Fuck that. T15's a trap. Yeah, I've got the Abbey. Actually, I like the Abbey 4-ways. They're sick, but I think there's a model you can do it, change the heads, because I feel like the 3 mil could fuck off and I could put a T25 in that, and then that's kind of cockpit done because of the 4.5. That's a 2.5. Yeah, I could almost put the T25 in something else. But yeah, I'm like, as much as I use bougie torque wrenches and shit to tighten stuff up at the end, like this is the majority of your bike build is there, like putting stuff together, like grabbing out individual stuff all the time.
Yeah, especially in a shop because it's all about efficiency.
Oh, when I was on the shop floor, 3-way was a must. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you want to see if that 7.4 FX fits you? Sweet, let's put the seat up. Oh, the bars are in the right spot. Easy, let's do this. Like, you just chuck that thing in your pocket. I probably had 6 of them at home because I tried to like drop them out when I got home. But yeah, they are good.
Sick. I think that's everything. Have you guys got anything to add?
Not really, mate. No. No. Well, it's a good chat.
Are you in Australia for a while?
I'm actually going to NZ first thing in the morning because I've got to pick up. I've got to pick up a heap of stuff from there because when I came home before Cairns, I left in a bit of a rush and just chucked everything in because like I had to fly 2 bikes home plus a lot of race gear, so I was over limit. I did the old foot under the bag trick to get the shit on the plane. But point is, like, I've got a heap of stuff there because we're going to go. Selfishly me, but also sort of a lot to do with the Trinity promotion. We're going to do all the Crankworks stops this year, which will be really good.
Oh, fuck yeah.
But that's coming up super quick, dude. Like, I only looked the other day, and like Monday week, I got a flight to Innsbruck. So I've got a heap of stuff still sitting in New Zealand, like my race wheels, just a heap of spare parts that I'll need to take and sitting at the workshop in NZ. So being kind of fringe season, flights are super cheap. So I'm going to fly out at 6 a.m. So I'm going to go to bed pretty soon.
I suppose it's cheaper and
And what,
easier.
just come straight back, or are you going to spend a couple of days there?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there for the long weekend, and then I'll be back.
Yeah, cool.
Yes, I'm not gonna take a whole heap of stuff. I'm gonna take my slopestyle bike and ride some dirt jumps. But it'll be good to grab some stuff and get sorted. Like, it's been a few years since I've been outside the Southern Hemisphere, so 2019. So it's kind of going to be weird to go back and do Crankworks, but I think it'll be really good for the brand promotion. I think, like, I don't know whether you guys second this, but like Australia can be pretty stuffy sometimes with the way that people view kind of prototype stuff and aftermarket stuff. And not that there's anything kind of wrong with that.
100%. Yeah.
We've had a fair bit of exposure even in Australia, and I'm like, and this is just talking about Trinity, not WRP stuff at the moment, but like the Trinity stuff's got a bit of exposure in Australia, and Australia, if anywhere, is a bit of a stuffy place for that type of market. So I'd really love to give it some exposure in Europe and North America, because I think that, I mean, obviously selfishly, I want to do some riding, but as far as a brand promotion thing, I think it's really important to do it while it's hot.
Yeah, the riding scene here is just small. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other hard thing, right? Like, you know, you go to a national round and they're big national rounds, but then you compare that to like Germany or Whistler or any, you know what I mean? Like, there's just such a bigger world out there, I think, for people to see that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And like, you know, obviously without giving a whole sort of heap away, like just in regards to the frames that we've sold, like the last 4 that we've sold, one went to a local guy here in Geelong. So we dropped that off to him just today. But the other 3 of the most recent 4 have all gone to California. So it's like, there's just such a big market out there that, you know, like I've been there quite a bit in my earlier 20s as a bike rider. But yeah, I think for brand exposure, I think that, it's really important.
And the downhill market over there is huge compared to here, right? Like just in downhill bikes. Like
a lot of demographics, a lot different, eh? Like, it's so different. I mean, same reason, I guess, a lot of guys over there have lifted trucks and shit. Like, I don't know. It's just a different demographic. But I did want to say props on the podcast too, though, Darren. I had quite a few people at Handmade mention about the podcast, like, oh, I've heard you guys talking at Tech Talk and whatever, and not just Tech Talk, but just, you know, Beyond the Tape in general. So thought I'd mention that to you, because it made me pretty stoked that people are tuning in.
So you met all 5 people? That's sick.
I get it. I get it a bit too. It's wild to think that, not to speak for you guys, to see myself that people actually want to listen to me fucking troll on. So
yeah, I'm a bit the same, to be honest with you. I just, I get a little bit, like, I'm used to it now, but like I remember when I first started coming on, I was a bit sort of shy and that type of stuff. It's all good now, but hearing that people get a lot out of it made me pretty stoked, to be honest with you. So
sick. That's what we do it for.
Yeah,
the millions of dollars, the millions of dollars of income are just a bonus. Like, we're really here just for the feel.
The 3 Porsches I have in the garage just help. But yeah.
What's that old joke? What's the easiest way to make $1 million in the bike industry?
You start with like 2 million.
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah.
And Lachy, what's up for you? You going to Japan? Going to go ride some big mountains?
I'm on holidays. No, I'm not riding. No bikes. I was toying with I'm an RCC member with Rafa, so you can rent bikes over there. So I was toying with taking the road stuff over, but I don't know. I've had some stuff going on where I've done a fuckload of riding the last 3 weeks, in kind of like the 30 hours worth of riding in 3 weeks. So I'm kind of keen for some time off, to be honest. And my partner doesn't ride, which is awesome. So yeah, just go do tourist stuff and then come back and be more thirsty to ride the bike. So yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm in Japan. And I haven't been on a holiday overseas since obviously COVID. So I've been away for some work trips, but nice getting a holiday and chill, and yeah, just 2 weeks away and then come back and start riding a shitload more. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a pretty unique bike shop. I know you're trying to escape bikes, but
No, so I will be going to many bike shops, so that is fine. So
you have to go to Blue Lug.
Yeah, I've got them. I got a little list from Dave from work the other day. So yeah, but that was on there. Something else that had a really quirky name. But yeah, I want to try and find some old school track stores and that stuff as well, because the track scene over there is huge, right?
Massive, hey?
Well, we can go down a
It's
rabbit
their
hole.
horse racing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can bet on it.
Well,
Yeah.
They're not allowed to. They go into a room by themselves like 2 or 3 days before a race, and there's no phone, there's no reception, there's no TV, there's no communication,
Really?
because there's so much illegal gambling through the gangs and like influence. It's wild.
Because, and again, not to hijack the conversation, but Dave Manton from Australian Cycling, he was telling me this close to a year ago, because it was when I was making these 37 chain rings for road. And he was telling me, because I never knew that prior to talking to Dave, and he was telling me about the Japanese market. Now, I've forgotten who, but I think they're an Australian company, if I'm not wrong. But because, and again, this is sort of secondhand information, I'm really testing my memory here, but I think he was saying something like, because it's like on the Wednesday or something before the race, they disclose what gearing they have to run.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I think it's a guy in Australia who has the contract for whatever governing body of their track cycling association is. The point is, he makes custom chain rings for like every race, because they only know like coming up. Yeah, like he would know obviously further in advance than a couple of days.
Yeah,
he would know further in advance, but like it's a surprise to the athletes. Like, okay, in a couple of days' time, you're going to be running a 39. And this guy's got the contract to make all the track cogs. Yeah, no shit. Because it's all custom.
Yep. It's wild.
That's sick.
Full wild.
Also have the largest market of American BMX memorabilia. So they froth like old school BMX. So they fly over to America and buy like hundreds of thousands of dollars of bike parts and bring them back. So like Skyways.
Sitting up in my cupboard for ages, take that out and give it to someone. Yeah. If not, I was going to burn it. So.
My brother has, I think it's still at mum and dad's place. He's got, and like I'm not up with the old school stuff. Not up with it. But he's got a Hutch jersey. It must be from the early 80s. Like, me and my brother only bought mid-90s, but like he had it when he was probably 10 years old or something, and we just got it from the BMX club or whatever. And it's pristine. It's like white, and it's like that mesh jersey material. And it's Hutch BMX. And I remember he was wearing it when he was a kid. And I remember this guy coming up to us. So this is probably, I don't know, mid-2000s, early 2000s. And we're at a Melbourne race, and this guy came up to us and he goes, "Never chuck that jersey out. That's going to be worth a mint in a few years." And it was only a few years ago I was at home and I actually came across it and I pulled it out. And I'm like, again, I'm not in the space at all to know anything kind of about old school BMX. I should ask some people, but I was like, yeah, that is a pretty mint jersey. I'd wear that around. A little bit like, I don't know. Sometimes when you see guys wear like retro kit, free riding and whatever, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. But no, Japan's a wild place.
Yeah, how sick's
I'm
that?
excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. 2 weeks of leisuring, and then because I won't have a bike, I'll be running. So if I hobble onto the next podcast, it's because my calves are blown out. Yeah.
Nah, you'll love it over there, man. It's sick.
Yeah.
Brad, let's wrap it up so Mick can fly to New Zealand in the morning.
Yeah, I've still got a Trinity to wrap up. Anyway, it's going all right. Wax and fragile tape on.
And you can sleep on the plane anyway, right? So
yeah, that's right.
That's true.
I love that 3.5 hour nap. It's fucking awesome. I normally do the late flight and then get in early.
See, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Unfortunately, the budget tickets are all red eyes.
Mm.